dinner. Yeah, you have to think about that.
As we pick up on some of the side chatter from inside the courthouse as well.
I thought they were taking care of it at 333.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to send a few through and I'll go through and actually edit them.
Yeah. I guess you have a whole press conference added too.
Brian, are you even trying to get this?
Yeah, I actually, when they opened the door, I kind of like this like long disappear, let the
Maybe
door
not.
close thing. So I'm gonna
Seems like that might have been false alarm. I was going to say
That would have been awfully
that would have been a record. I mean, court hearings are known to sometimes be extraordinarily short, but that might have been a record. So let's talk more about the Pennsylvania press conference, the PA State Police press conference that they announced. And I thought that this was interesting. They announced it for. We have to be ready on the touch screen, folks, to hit a button to go full screen so that we can monitor Kohberger coming out of court. Pennsylvania State Police. They released this. Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police, Major Christopher Paris, Area 3rd Commander of State Police, and Monroe County District Attorney David Christine Jr. will be holding a press conference today to discuss the apprehension of Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Kohberger was taken into custody early Friday by members of Troop N and the Special Emergency Response Team at a home in Chestnut Hill Township in Monroe County in connection to the homicides of 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th. The press conference will be available via live stream. A PA cast video will be available after the event. And then it, of course, goes into the what, when, where, and the media contact for the event.
Title for what it's scheduled as, but when he goes in there and signs the waiver paperwork.
I can't hear.
Oh, wait, yeah, this is interesting.
That's all he's doing.
So I'm just trying to think for my cat. I said arrives for extradition hearing. So I should just say just arrives for hearing.
Oh, extradition, no, there's you're right. It's an extradition hearing that can go numerous ways.
Okay.
An extradition hearing that can be.
You got better hearing than I do.
Okay.
He was walking in.
Do I, though?
Oh, I can't hear a thing.
I'm listening.
Switch to get older, JB.
A hearing not to have, yeah.
Some of the normally off-camera interactions that occur when we're talking about what's that now?
Yeah. He's in the hearing right now.
Oh, okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, just confirming with our team here. Thank you, Jim.
He can really hear well.
He must, and he's older than both of us.
Yeah.
So
what's his secret?
He has superb hearing. Shout out to Jim Hockett. He has Bryan Kohberger has according to this court officer waived extradition, and what he's doing now in the courtroom itself is signing the paperwork necessary for him to formally approve and legally approve of his own extradition. So yeah,
and I guess the logical question now too is how long now before he is extradited back to Idaho? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yep. And the judge might be announcing that here shortly. Mm-hmm. That answer might also come at the Pennsylvania State Police press conference, although that would surprise me a little bit. I'm sure it's possible, but that's going to be if they take questions. One of the questions is going to be, when is Kohberger leaving the Pennsylvania jurisdiction?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see if we get an answer on that. But all of this unfolding over the next hour or so, folks. So if you're just joining us, JB here with you live on WFLA Now, Josh Benson, Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho murder suspect. He is currently in the courtroom waiving his extradition, signing the paperwork necessary. What will then happen after that is he will be escorted here by court personnel, by members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I believe. They're going to be escorting him down the hallway back to his holding area. He will be transported back to the Pennsylvania Correctional Facility, awaiting his official transport. And I believe, of course, then it will be up to Idaho to arrange for transportation to bring him back to the state.
You know,
So-
it's interesting storylines too, is just what we see on social media and what everybody talks about in terms of, all right, how was he apprehended? How did they tail the car? You know, they found the car at the parents' house. That's something that came out today. The dad had traveled back to Pennsylvania with Bryan in the vehicle. There's some speculation on if they both, I think there was 2 tickets that they got pulled over twice on the way back. Now we're seeing some speculation that may have not happened from police. So we don't know the true story there just yet. But also seeing things, you know, what kind of inmate was he in the jail? I saw some things on social media saying, hey, you know, he was going crazy and he was threatening people. The Monroe County Correctional Facility warden came forward, I know, to CNN and said that he has been a model prisoner who has not caused any problems during his time in detention. That's according to a source familiar with Kohberger's status at the facility. So this just kind of shows you that there's so much information out there and storylines that are happening so fast. And it's kind of tough to decipher like what really is happening in terms of, you know, what's true, what's false, and what do people want to believe. I think a lot of people out there think this is public enemy number 1 and want
Let's
to
listen
believe
to it.
he's,
Hold on, Josh.
Thank you.
I know they're not gonna move from
You
that
guys have been
spot.
awesome, so yeah, we're
Yeah,
definitely
try
gonna
to
try
put
to
it on
work
the
out.
list.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you mind hanging out 1 second? I'm just gonna clear your bathroom, make sure that nobody has.
So this is the court personnel preparing for this to be over with, and for him to now come back down the hallway. So we'll stay on this now full screen with audio
And then you've got
fully up, but we'll try to listen in with everybody else watching wherever you're watching from once Kohberger arrives down this hallway.
Yeah. This building's closing up at 5, right?
4:30 usually. but-
Sorry, Josh, did you want to finish that
no,
point,
I
though?
was just thinking, you know, this Kohberger's attorney, you know, he was on Today's Show this morning as well, and said in an interview, you know, he was shocked a little bit when he was arrested. Well, first of all, I'd be shocked a lot if I was ever arrested. But he was shocked a little bit. He said, and he believes he's going to be exonerated. This is what the attorney for Kohberger said in an interview today. So along with what the family is saying, they're shocked to hear these allegations. They say this couldn't be our son. You know, these are things that are now coming out from the family and from Kohberger himself. So it's until he gets back to Idaho and until we see some more evidence of what happened in this scenario to get him to be this #1 suspect. You know, there's going to be a lot of storylines on social media. We just got to be careful about what we report and what we follow as truth.
I'm pretty sure it was in the shot standing out in front of the
Yeah, sleuthy goosey. I'm paying attention to some comments here, but we're also trying to also get ready for Kohberger's next appearance in the hallway. Says hashtags for both of us. The lawyer, Labar, says he got tickets, but he hadn't seen them, didn't know what they were. Indiana State Police say they have no record of stopping either Kohberger. And this is based on reporting by Fox News that on the trip in mid-December, on the trip home, Kohberger and his father, according to Labar, the attorney, that they got pulled over twice in Indiana, and Indiana State Police saying that there was no record of them getting pulled over. And that would mean, of course, that there weren't any tickets given.
Right.
But yeah, that was another nugget that came out from Fox News. As all these as interviews are done and questions are asked, this is how we get information between now and the arrest affidavit being released. We've got the audio up on full blast. We also have it full screen for you for, again, Bryan Kohberger exiting court.
They start right at 3:30?
Yeah, they're right on time.
I figured they were right.
We're starting to walk.
Walking.
Here we go.
Do you got bathrooms? They should be cleared.
Departing. Departing.
Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger appears in Pennsylvania court, waiving his extradition, sending him back to the state where he is expected to answer to 4 first-degree murder charges in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. JB Buno, Josh Benson here with you live on WFLA Now across all platforms. So the extradition process is now in the rearview mirror, according to the court officer there, and we are now awaiting word as to when exactly the extradition is going to happen for the Washington State University student accused of 4 gruesome stabbing deaths at the University of Idaho on a inside of a college residence back on November the 13th. Josh, so we have seen Kohberger arrive, depart. This was all done within really a 15-minute time.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of confusion as to what just happened. So let's just go through what this hearing was all about. So extradition is a procedure where one jurisdiction will pretty much acknowledge with another jurisdiction that there's probable cause to bring someone back and arraign them there for prosecution. So that's what we're seeing here. One of the agencies bringing into this court hearing, Kohberger has decided to waive extradition, meaning he wants to get back there to Idaho as soon as possible to try to be exonerated from this crime. And that was set at 3:30. So it's what, 15 minutes. That's all it took. It was supposed to be a brief hearing. It was. Now, he may have gotten the opportunity to speak. Sometimes suspects in this case would be allowed that. We don't know if he was, because we're obviously not in the courtroom at this point. But the public defender, Jason Labar, says he's eager to get back to Idaho to be exonerated, and that's why he's not fighting extradition. So what happens in this case next, if he waives it, which he did, he's expected to be flown back to Moscow, Idaho, and could be there within 72 hours. So we don't know the exact time frame, but that could be the time frame that they're looking at. The Latah County prosecutors have said the affidavit for 4 charges of first-degree murder will remain sealed until he is returned. He's also facing a charge of that felony burglary charge as well.
Just like I'm sure there was high demand to get a seat, if you remember the press in Pennsylvania for today, I'm sure that there was, if not higher demand, to get phones activated so that reporters in the courtroom could tweet out. Brian Enton, I know, has received his phone, and he is tweeting as we speak. He's got a series of tweets coming in, and we'll start here with the first one. Bryan Kohberger waived his extradition hearing. He had to sign a waiver in court. The judge explained to Kohberger the charges against him in Idaho and that he was voluntarily allowing authorities to transfer him to Idaho. Really, this is very routine. Exactly what we expected would occur. It was quick. It was to the point. I think Pennsylvania, with the press conference, again, if you're just joining us, the Pennsylvania State Police, they have called a press conference at 4:30. And we're going to have that press conference here on WFLA Now. The exact reason for the press conference, it might just be, and I'm speculating here. I'm admittedly speculating here. It might just be because they have been inundated with so many questions on the Pennsylvania side of things that they want to do a press conference just to answer questions. And then once we have Kohberger being transported, it's just them signaling that this is no longer a Pennsylvania case. This is going to be an Idaho case from this point forward. So it might just be them, kind of crossing their T's, dotting their I's, and being done with this section of this story. But this is Kohberger being transported back to the holding area. He will be taken to the Pennsylvania Correction Facility where he was this morning. And then, of course, that they will arrange for his transportation, his extradition back to the state of Idaho.
And I think this is where you're going to see online a lot of people saying this is where the case truly starts, because Now they have a lot to prove in the fact of 3 questions. Okay, the motive. What was the motive here? Why did he allegedly do this? Did he know the victims? That's another big question that needs to be answered, and hopefully we get some of these answers when he's back in Idaho. And what evidence do police have against the suspect? And where's the murder weapon? That's another one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. They want to find that murder weapon. I don't believe they have it. We haven't seen anything that's indicated that they do, but those are questions now that need to be answered. And that's why you're going to hear about everybody saying now is where the case really starts, because until we see that charging affidavit, until we see some information why the police feel so strongly that this man committed the crimes, we're kind of in that middle ground waiting to see the next step.
We're paying attention to your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJosh questions and comments coming in on social media. Josh, well, let's pay attention to Twitter too. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. We are now awaiting a 4:30 press conference with Pennsylvania State Police, where they are going to be answering questions on the Pennsylvania side of things. Chloe wants to know, hashtag HeyJB, do you think Bryan will change his plea once the affidavit is released, or does he know the evidence against him already? Let's make this clear. He hasn't entered a plea. He is not yet in the jurisdiction where he is facing these charges. So he has to be physically in the state of Idaho for him to answer to these charges in front of a judge. So that process is so I think there's this assumption that, of course, that he is going to plead not guilty. It certainly sounds as if he's going to plead not guilty, but make no mistake about it, he has not entered a not guilty plea yet. Does he know the evidence against him already? Is an interesting question. The arrest affidavit, of course, does Jason Labar have that information, him being a Pennsylvania public defender? That's a question that I really don't know the answer to that question. It's actually a very interesting question. Does his Pennsylvania attorney have the details regarding his
Privy to the information ahead of
the
time?
evidence? Yeah, privy to the information before it's released publicly. That's a great question.
Because it is sealed. I don't know
how sealed.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer either.
I don't know.
But that's a very, very excellent
You're asking
question.
a couple non-lawyers right now.
Yeah, but look, that's something that we'll try to get details on, whether or not is Kohberger waiving his extradition knowing the evidence against him. I would imagine that by now word has received that he's received word. What we know, what we are hearing is that reportedly through law enforcement sources, okay, that there is a DNA component to this, a DNA match of some kind. We also know that the Elantra, the white Elantra that we can say now, was discovered at his property, or what police believe to be the white Hyundai Elantra that they have been searching for. So he has to know that. He absolutely has to know that to some extent, to some degree, through his representation. However, whether or not he's aware of the evidence, that's a really good question.
Is that feed still up? Do you see anybody come out of the courtroom, or
the feed is down?
Okay.
They have ended the pool feed, so this is but there is. Yeah,
Well, because my question is, the father of one of the victims, Steve Concalves, of Kaylee's dad, she was the 21-year-old daughter, his daughter, who was murdered. He was in there, and essentially he's positioning himself to be pretty much the victim who wants to be the face of the victims for this case, so to speak. So he was talking to NBC News earlier. He says, I want him to be sick of seeing us and sick of knowing that these people won't let it go. It's a battle of wills, and we'll see who wins. So this dad, as fired up as he should be, is going to make his presence known, and has today. He was in that courtroom for that hearing, as far as we understand today. And it sounds like he's going to be everywhere he can possibly be for every step of the way on this case.
I was just checking because we had planned, and we've been working on this over the course of today, planned to have access to some camera feeds outside the courtroom, because now, just like we saw him earlier, and I'll punch up this video, just like we had the video of his arrival, there's now going to be the video of his departure, and whether or not is there going to be a crowd of some kind that gathers in the area where they're going to transport him back to the Pennsylvania Correction Facility. I just checked our feeds. There are no active feeds outside the courthouse, which means that the camera crews that we have access to, they haven't powered on their signals. If they do power on their signal, believe me, here in the Stream Center, we'll be able to tap into it just like that with the touch of a button. I'll be able to take you to live outside the courthouse, where he is going to be then transported back to the correctional facility where he began his day, awaiting extradition to Idaho. Lisa with a really good question. Lisa, will they drive or fly him back to Idaho?
That is a good
It's
question.
another really good. This is why
I think they've done both in the past.
they have extraditions can be done via air. It can be done.
I'm sure if flying, because it's pretty far distance. How far
Mhm.
distance is it? I mean, it would be just quicker to.
Just don't fly Southwest.
It's very,
Sorry,
very fair
I
point.
couldn't avoid.
Hey, but they're back on track, right?
right.
That's what we've been reporting. They're
Couldn't
back.
avoid
that was,
the
that was a good one,
opportunity
though.
there.
Yeah,
It's just
that was a good
softball
one.
toss there.
That was a good one.
So will they drive or fly him back to Idaho? I guess. Look, I guess we will find out, and that might those details might have been discussed briefly in court as to
Mhm.
what the extradition process
Sure.
is going to look like. Did Bryan Enton finish his tweeting? Let's see. Keeping an eye on our feeds here. Yeah. Okay. So Kohberger told the judge he is not on any medication that would impact him making the decision. The judge said he has to be sent to Idaho within 10 days.
Oh, 10 days. I would have thought 72 hours, but
And then just seconds ago, Kohberger came into court and made eye contact with his family sitting in the front row. He nodded at them. His mom cried, and his sister comforted the mom. A deputy brought her tissues. So Kohberger, according to Bryan Enton, made contact with his own family clearly emotional in the courtroom. Whether or not there was any moment of eyes meeting, or if there was any moment of Kohberger seeing any of the victims' families, that hasn't been. Look, we're going to get all this information over the course of this live stream. We'll get more details as soon as it comes out. But as of right now, that's what we're going based off of our friend Bryan Enton. We'll go over back to some other comments.
and look, I would imagine he doesn't want to sit in jail for 10 days. If he believes that he's innocent and wants to fight this, I don't know how much control he has in making it happen faster than 10 days, but that's what the judge set as the limit.
Sierra Travels, what would have happened had he not waived extradition? So then they have to fight for extradition, and that would have
Taking a lot
elongated the
longer.
process.
Yeah.
And then it's also, look, in the court of public opinion, that's not going to help your if you're fighting extradition. That says something. That says something
Well,
about
it sends the wrong optics.
it does. Agreeing to extradition and saying you're looking forward to being exonerated, that sends a very clear message that you're looking forward to clearing your name.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a benefit to fight it unless you're trying to build a case from where you are, but you can't really build a case unless you know really what you're up against. So it's kind of a moot point.
We'll continue to take your questions and your comments. I want to get this out there though as well, and we'll put away Sarah's comment here for just a moment. Fox News reported this afternoon that Bryan Kohberger's defense team, not his attorney, his defense team, hired investigators, and that those investigators arrived at the home where he is accused of fatally stabbing the University of Idaho students in Moscow. 3 men, I'll read this. 3 men, 2 women, according to Fox News, arrived at the King Road house at about noon Eastern time, spent 45 minutes taking video inside and outside of the property. 4 of the investigators left after touring the home, while a crime scene reconstruction analyst, remained. Very, very interesting report from Fox News. So this is we're starting to get the inklings of a considerable legal showdown here between the prosecutors in Idaho and between Bryan Kohberger, who isn't just going to be represented by his defense team, but also too, this is somebody who is studying criminal justice,
Right.
somebody who has a bachelor's and a master's degree, Josh,
Right.
In fields related to the exact situation that he finds himself in, which of course, in and of itself is interesting to say the least. So how he now goes about proving what he claims to be his innocence is going to be really the major storyline now going forward. But really, everyone's just waiting for this evidence to drop, because if the evidence is concrete, it certainly points to It certainly points to, look, everyone wants justice. Justice is the word that's on the tip of everyone's tongues. The 4 University of Idaho students, their families have been devastated by this just terrible act of evil. And if this is the person who committed the crime, then everyone wants there to be justice. And what justice looks like will take shape over the coming months.
Now, I want to address a tweet too from Elena Clemens, saying Steve Goncalves said he would be in the court in Idaho. He did not say he was flying to PA to attend BK's extradition hearing. Please report accurately. All right, I was going off the fact that he's saying that he's going to be wherever he can be.
I'm sorry. Wait. What did we have incorrect?
This woman is saying Steve Goncalves said he would be in the court in Idaho. He did not say he was flying to PA to attend BK's extradition hearing. Please report accurately. So if I have that incorrect, then I've seen it incorrectly a few different times on other news agencies.
Let's get that.
So that's why I was hoping if we could see people coming out of the courtroom, because then it can verify who was there and who wasn't.
Yep. And what's interesting too, again, was so Steve was going to be at the Idaho court hearings to look him in the face and let him know this is not going away anytime soon.
Okay, so maybe that was.
Yep. No, but you
That's
know
what
what
I
though?
mean,
That
Thank you, Elena, for. I'm going to give you a like. There you go.
that's also been part of. I might have had that incorrect too.
But you know what? I think he, as a father, I think he's going to be everywhere he can be. I think, if that happened to my daughter, you can bet I would be anywhere I could be at any time, because this is something that, his daughter was ripped from his life. And if this is the prime suspect, then.
Yeah, I got a similar tweet. So my apology. I misspoke too. That Steve was not.
Well, that might be
in the
reported
courtroom
incorrectly
today.
Across the.
So our apologies there for that inaccuracy. That Steve Goncalves is going to be at the legal proceedings in Idaho, and not today in Pennsylvania. So excuse us. Apologies. I misread that as that he was going to be in court today. Yeah, and people who are saying online that there's video of him already leaving, I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah, I was really hoping to have that feed here, folks, but I do not control the camera crews outside of the courtroom. And
there's not a lot in terms of tweets either. In terms of, it was such a short hearing.
Yeah, I see
really
video
nothing.
of Kohberger leaving court.
Yeah.
So we were hoping to have feeds from outside of the courthouse.
Yeah. And if you're just joining us, we don't have a camera inside the courtroom, so we didn't get to see, who he looked at, how he acted, all those details. We can get them from the reporters who were in there at the time. But phones, tweeting, video wasn't allowed inside the courtroom.
So let's go back to the comment section. Thank you for the understanding there as we corrected the error. Gianna Marie, #KJB, is it true wanting to represent himself in Idaho? I haven't heard anything of the sort about him representing himself in Idaho. But that'd be
probably not advised.
No, but
from his public attorney.
We have seen cases where you represent yourself
and
then things go off the rails.
Yep.
So this is interesting. Mom. My mom does not look like that. My mom doesn't look like
picture.
that.
That's
So this is not my mom. Someone's mom, but it's not my mom. #HeyJB, will he stay in Idaho forever? This is a very interesting question. So look, he's being extradited to Idaho. He's going to answer the charges. And he's not leaving Idaho until that legal process plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is convicted, then again, we don't want to go too far down this hypothetical. But if he is convicted, you're facing either, look, that case could go capital, and we're talking about the death penalty being on the table. We're also talking about the possibility of life without parole. So again, this is somebody who is looking forward reportedly looking forward to clearing his name and to being exonerated, saying that he is not guilty of the crimes that he has been accused of. If he is able to prove his innocence, and if it's determined that he is not responsible for the crimes, plural, the answer to this question is likely no. If he is convicted, the answer to this question very well might be yes, depending, of course, on the legal process and how it plays out. But there is so much navigating that needs to be done between A and Z. We're not even, I mean, he hasn't even arrived in the state where he's supposed to answer these charges.
You know what I find the most fascinating too is how quickly information can be discovered on somebody.
Yeah.
In this day and age, which is so many people, a lot of you watching right now, the ability to just tap in and find information so fast is just unbelievable to me in this day and age, because we have a whole profile on this guy of what he did, where he went to school, how he acted when he was in class, where he drove, what kind of car he had, and who he hung out with. We've had people, close personal friends and exes, reach out to us, saying that they were with him or they were friends with him, and that was all within the first few days. So I mean, the information travels so quickly. It's just wild to me that in this day and age, how much information you can get so fast. But that can also be bad too, because that can also lead you down rabbit holes where you start to believe things that aren't true. So again, I always come back to, we got to wait and see what the information and the evidence is before we really move forward on this.
So our NBC sister station, NBC Philadelphia, they had a reporter in the courtroom by the name of Deanna Durante, and tweeting, Bryan Kohberger remained calm, stoic in court, answering a judge's questions and telling her he is waiving his right to extradition and return to Idaho willingly to face 4 counts of murder and that burglary charge. Live updates coming your way on their station. So interesting, just the words there, excuse me, calm and stoic in court. Take that for what you will, folks. Let's go back to the comment section. And I just had a really interesting Victoria Patrick. Yes, if we have a feed now, it's my job here to organize feeds. It's what I do.
I did see
here in the
coordinates.
Stream Center. Yeah. So as far as getting that feed, that I'm here in the Stream Center. This entire room is designed to bring in live feeds and distribute it to you wherever you're watching from, and to make it as accessible as possible. That's the whole mission statement.
Air traffic control.
That's right. And
see, it's like an air traffic control center.
It certainly is. And what we'll try to do is we will try to provide, if the feed comes in, it's a tap away on a touch screen and we take you to it. But I worked all afternoon to ensure that we would have that feed, and that feed is coming up in about 24 minutes time. 4:30 Eastern is when we're expected to have it. Autumn is the best. #KJB. I think he pleads not guilty. I think that is the more likely scenario. And here's the one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name. GNRBABE. #KJB. Will the trial in Idaho be televised? So I talked to a lot of states and a lot of court officials, and I always call them up, and it's always my first question. What is your courtroom policy for live feeds inside of the courtroom? And I want to make this clear, every state has different rules when it comes to the transparency of their courtroom. Pennsylvania's rules were made very, very clear to me yesterday that the courtroom itself is off limits, but the courthouse isn't. It's kind of an odd quirk, right? That we were able to get hallway access, but not courtroom access. But look, every state has their different rules, and we'll find out what the rules are in Idaho.
Hey, I want to give a hat tip out to Mabel Quintanilla. She just gave me forwarded me a tweet from John Webb, who's a reporter out at, looks like North Idaho reporter, KHQ TV. Says Ann Taylor, the chief public defender of Kootenai County, will be representing Bryan Kohberger in the state of Idaho. Reached out to her office just now, but was sent to her voicemail. So now, thanks for posting that. I will look and see if that continues to be the name that is going to be surrounded by his defense. Appears to be. So if that is the case, you're going to hear a lot about her. So we'll start digging on that, get some more information on who's going to be representing But according to this reporter, it's Ann Taylor, Kootenai County. Thanks, Mabel, for forwarding that on.
Katie, hashtag KJB, do you think Kohberger is guilty based on body language and overall attitude? So no one can answer this question. And I bring this up just to, this introduces us to this, the conversation that we were having earlier about how people say, look at his eyes, he's guilty.
Because they want answers. The people just want to know things so fast. But that's a fair question, because there are body language experts out there who will take a serial killer and look at the mannerisms and the body language and actually make a discernible, judgment on, yes, this person has tells and this person has things that you can tell when they're lying or whatnot. So I mean, there's definitely a science to it. I mean, the average person like you or I couldn't probably figure any of that out. We could assume we did, but yeah, it's too dangerous at this point to make those kind of jumps.
It is
in a case like this, because there's just so much more work to be done and so much more information that the public just doesn't know yet.
And of course, we've heard so much confidence being expressed by Chief Fry in Moscow that they have their guy. But I want to remind our audience, we're very early on in this process. The arrest affidavit will tell us so much. And that I really hope that people, once the arrest affidavit drops, we'll likely launch a live stream here. We'll comb through it. We'll go through it, a lot of it live. And hopefully, look, arrest affidavits, I've gone through, I can't, countless arrest affidavits. I'm just hoping that the redactions are minimal. Because the redactions, so many times, there's so much hype surrounding an arrest affidavit as investigators detail, what evidence they have. But there is, of course, a process that has to go through before it's released to the public, and redactions are made for the integrity of the ongoing investigation and for the legal process. Redactions exist in different forms, different jurisdictions. So we're just hoping that the redactions in and of themselves are minimal, so that we can get a clear picture as to what evidence is against Kohberger. Again, if you're just joining us, JB and Josh here with you. We are awaiting a 4:30 press conference from PA. And I'm getting that set up now. Okay. So that's, I'm just shooting a note out to our teams to make sure that we have that.
I may have to jump and get onto the newscast, but how long do you think?
Well, we got the presser coming up in 20 minutes. Up to you. You're my streaming partner in crime.
I could come back.
Okay. It depends, of course, on.
You don't like to leave a man hanging, though.
No.
On an island.
Josh, you complete.
This is a tough job to do by yourself, right?
Yeah, you complete me, Josh.
How many times have you done this by yourself?
A lot. And it's a lot easier when I
tread water and just keep it going.
Teamwork makes the stream work.
But yeah, but it's nice to have people commenting. This real-time commenting is awesome.
Here's what we're going to do, folks. We are going to momentarily take a 3-minute break in preparation for the 4:30 press conference. I'll be able to take our I'll be able to talk to our team in person just to make sure that we're getting a feed, and so we will be more equipped and best equipped to handle the 4:30 press conference if we take about a 3-minute break. So don't go anywhere, folks. We will be right back here on WFLA.